through AI and through the data we have and through all the logic we do, we can understand what the customer wants, right? Without them reaching out.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Agency Success Community at hosting.com. Now, I've got a great guest today, one of our leaders, top leaders at hosting.com on the bleeding edge of AI. Now, we've done some content in the past and shared some more about Panos' work here at hosting.com, but you're in for a great conversation. He's been working mostly behind the scenes for months, years on these things, and we're going to share some stuff I think you're going to want to lean in and take notes of. Panos Kesisis, welcome back, our Chief Operating Officer at hosting.com.
Hi, Cory. Thanks for having me.
Now, I wonder sometimes if you're real, but I've met you in person, so I know you're a real human, but you're on all the time. And I think currently you're on the West Coast in the United States. We have offices around the world and things like that. But the first subject I want to kind of talk about is Orbi. Now, you just did a blog post, that'll be in the show notes, introducing Orbi to the world, but we're going to go in depth, the behind the scenes look at Orbi today. So could you tell me a little bit about what Orbi is and how it got started?
So Orbi is our AI customer success agent. It's a system that we built as a concept a couple of years ago. We wanted to, of course, stay on top of the trend, start utilizing AI for various reasons. Of course, optimizing the business, helping customers faster, giving them better answers, faster answers, and also identify how we can improve as a company, right? So a couple of years ago, we built a proof of concept of how we envisioned of any agentic system working. We built a couple of iterations, with the famously called vibe coded. So we built a couple of iterations. We made a proof of concept and an app that was able to, read some content, answer basic questions, show us what we need to improve, give us a few pointers, specifically in customer care. So it was able to go through, read some of the tickets, understand what customers want, understand what customers need, and then give us a few pointers. So that was a couple of years ago. We did it, and then it was working really well. And then we thought, okay, this is a way forward. We should build this now for real, and we should put a full focus on it, and we should make it like an official product for us, for the company. So we had to make a few decisions, right, on how Orbi is going to look like. What is it going to be? Is it going to do for the customers? What kind of access is it going to have? And at end of the day, what is the goal of Orbi, like, right? So why do we build this system, and what is Orbi supposed to be doing? And end of the day, the sole purpose of Orbi is to help customers faster. Like, customers contact us, they just want a fast response. They have an issue, they want to get a quick answer to the question. So when we started building Orbi properly from ground up, the foundation was quality of answer, speed of answer, accuracy, and making sure Orbi understands the customer intent. So we started building it. Again, a few iterations later, the product today is quite sophisticated. And what it does is, I can explain a little bit of the technical details, but just to give you an overview, is Orbi is an agentic system that connects to our systems, connects to our knowledge base. It has a large amount of data, then understands the customer's question, checks their account, does a little bit of processing, a little bit of logic behind the scenes, and is able to give an answer which is very accurate and is able to very successfully solve the customer's questions with a high satisfaction rate and a very high accuracy. And all of this happens in a matter of seconds.
What are some of the technical, components of it? In our last conversation, I think you mentioned Gemini right now, at least, is very, very good at conversations. What are some of the technical components? So agentic for sure, access to our systems, our back-end things, our knowledge base and stuff. What are some of the components that manage or do that?
I'll go a little bit more technical, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So the way it works right now is, imagine you're a customer and imagine you say for example, you want to do a live chat conversation with us. So you click the live chat button, you start the conversation, you have a question, you type your question, you say for example, oh, I have a billing question, how do I pay my invoice, right? So Orbi reads the question, does what we call intent recognition. That happens behind the scenes with OpenAI. So OpenAI gets the first question, understands the intent, categorizes the question, and then it says, okay, so the customer has a billing question. Based on my instruction set, I know that Gemini is very good when it comes to billing questions and finance. So I'm going to send this question to my so-called sub-agent. Then the sub-agent is going to get the question as the new model, the Gemini model. Then the Gemini model is going to connect to the system, do the troubleshooting, understand what's the customer wants, needs to do what it needs to do, come back with the answer, give it to the original LLM, and the original LLM will continue the conversation. And so for every single back and forth question, there is the intent recognition, and there is the sub-agent connection, and every single sub-agent has a specific connections to systems, and it's also working with a different LLM model based on capabilities. So a few examples. Website troubleshooting, we know Anthropic is really good. So the Opus model is doing an excellent work. Gemini, as you said, has incredible conversational skills. So when a customer needs advice or consultation, sales, general account queries, we always use Gemini. Gemini is very good talking to customers and this back and forth natural conversation. OpenAI is very good with general knowledge. So things that customers ask that doesn't have to do direct impact to the company. So for example, what is web hosting, or what is a WordPress website, right? So that is a public general knowledge, and OpenAI has incredible data, so it's really good and it can answer incredibly accurate. So we do a lot of background processing, we do a lot of recognition of what the customer wants, and based on that, we select the right model, which we think is going to give the best answer. Now, Orbi is what's called a deterministic agent. So it follows very specific instructions. So when it goes and does stuff, it has a very clear, we call them guardrails. So there's things which Orbi is allowed to do, and there's things which Orbi is not allowed to do, right? So it's a deterministic, it follows the right path, it has a very specific instruction set, and it goes and it does stuff which we tell it to do.
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind, well, my first question is, how many agents approximately do we have? Because you don't need 1,000, I would think. You need for the main categories to route the conversation.
Yeah, oh well, so the number of sub-agents is huge, actually. So we have 18 main agents, and then we have a lot of sub-agents. So I can give you an example. If a customer has a question about a broken website, right? Then there is an agent, a sub-agent that specializes in website troubleshooting. But then it depends where the customer is hosted at, right? So maybe the customer is using cPanel. Maybe the customer is using an enhanced panel. Maybe the customer is on a VPS. Maybe the customer is on an unmanaged VPS. So all this, every single hosting platform has a different sub-agent because it needs to connect different APIs. It needs to have a different instruction set, different level of access, right? So cPanel would be shared hosting access, or a VPS would be more elevated access, right? So different instructions and different kind of access. So it really depends on the case. But again, to answer your question, it will be 18 main agents and then a lot of sub agents, which we keep on improving every day. We keep on adding every day. Yeah, it's a pretty sophisticated system.
Absolutely. Well, just to think about that, like a lot of the topics, I would assume you've been in hosting for 2+ decades now. You know, okay, that's a billing sales question. That's a pure sales question. That's a technical thing. So the 18 agents that start, you've done that. So I would assume you're setting up how you think about that is, setting the search up there, and then the sub agents are getting more specialized in the knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's also, so there's two reasons we do this. One is specialty. You're right. There's another one reason, and this is the biggest I can say, challenge we had building Orbi. So as you know, all the LLM models, the key handling LLM models is a context window. So how much data goes in and out. So that's how you basically control a conversation between an LLM model. And that's how you control how accurate the data you get in and out is. If you exceed the context window, the LLM model starts hallucinating, right? And that's where you start getting problems, you start getting inaccurate answers. And obviously, having it connecting to systems could be very dangerous, right? So one of the biggest challenge we had was working closely with a fixed context window. And the way to solve this was we had to split the context window into two pieces. One is dynamic and one is static. So the static context window would be the instructions we give it based on the initial intent. And the dynamic context window would be the sub agent. So the sub agent, depending on what kind of specialty they have, what kind of systems they connect, they would then go do the job that they're supposed to be doing. And then they would come back to the initial dynamic window, and then it would fed into it would fed details into the conversation. So for example, if I am the initial agent that holds the conversation, I have a limited context window. If I had to do the troubleshooting, I had to connect to all the systems. If I had to read all the articles in the knowledge base, my context window is going to be depleted very fast, and then I'm going to start hallucinating, right? So what we do is, okay, I am first agent, calling this agent, calling this agent, calling this agent. You go do this, you go do that, come back to me with information. So that's in a nutshell, right? How we were able to simplify the integration between different models and different sub agents to make sure we control the context window. It doesn't exceed it, and it prevents the bot from it prevents the models from hallucinating. It was the biggest challenge by far building Orbi. There's still edge cases where we do exceed it, but we keep on improving every day. We narrow down the connections to the systems, and we build direct integrations with MCPs, which of course helps narrow down the connections and get the data in and out with a smaller context. So yeah, it's exciting.
That's pretty brilliant. I mean, it's architecting the right, like within the context window things, knowing that's an issue. How do we break up? Now I'm seeing why you might need more than one agent, particularly at our scale and size. With the hallucination part into that, that's something I hadn't thought of at scale for sure. But even not even, right? Like even a smaller portion, you're going to overwhelm it and get a false result.
I want to point out how significant the hallucination is when it comes to an agent like ours. So we trust the LLM model to do stuff on our behalf, right? And also do stuff on behalf of the customer. It's not just a potential wrong information, it's also a potential of doing an incorrect action. So we need, like it's our job to ensure that the bot absolutely does zero hallucination, and it does zero incorrect actions on behalf of the customer. So we not only try to perfect the context window, we also have a few guardrails. So every single action the bot does, we have a thing called the confidence level. So basically the AI model makes a self-assessment, right? So it says, okay, I'm 95% confident this is the right answer. Of course, when it starts hallucinating, the confidence drops below 60, 70%. So then if we detect that, we say, okay, cut off, stop the conversation, give it to a human. So yeah, it's not, we have to make sure that the actions we take on behalf of the customer are accurate, and it's exactly what the customer wants.
Yes. Okay, this brings up a bunch of different questions. But the next, before I get to expense, is the review. You said, okay, we segment off, that goes to a human. Confidence level has gone too low. We need a human intervention. What about there's guardrails in there, but what about the review process and when a human intervention needs, I mean, you and team are reviewing this all day, every day and feeding it back into the system, but how does the quality work, I guess I should say. And then I think the safety. They've got access to the systems and things like that. What things have you done to review, ensure quality of what's going out?
Let's start with security, because it's the most important thing, right? So every access that Orbi has is through an MCP server. MCP, you can control all the input and output that goes in. So we can define what kind of things Orbi can do. We can define what things Orbi cannot do. And we can also define the amount of data and the exact data that Orbi can see, can work with, and can give back to the customer, or can talk between the other models. So we have 100% control of what the LLM model can do and cannot do, and can see or cannot see. Beyond that, when it comes to quality, we did a lot of testing before we pushed Orbi live, and that's where, again, when I said initially that Gemini had the best conversational skills, right? So we actually did a lot of A/B testing with customers without customers knowing. They talked to a human, but it was actually an AI model, and we saw that with Gemini, customers wouldn't even realize that it was an AI model. So we of course we decided that Gemini is the right thing to do. Put it as the head of the conversation, and then Gemini can do the calling of the tools. So that was the first thing we did. Of course, as we continue putting more and more stuff to it, and or be handling more and more, we need to be on top, and we need to be reviewing everything that's being discussed and everything that's being handled. And that's being done with a new tool we have, which is, again, a quality control tool. I think we spoke a little bit about this last time. So we have this tool that basically downloads every single live chat, every single ticket, every single phone call we do as a business, reads it, understands it, gives a summary of the whole thing, does a thing called the frustration detection, understands if the customer was frustrated at any point in the conversation for whatever the reason was, gives an assessment, notifies their teams, notifies myself, notifies my teams if there's a problem, the quality control team, the advocacy team. So and all of this happens basically in real time, plus minus 5 minutes delay. So Orbi can talk to 100 customers at the same time. If something goes wrong, my teams will know in probably 5 minutes.
That's great. Okay, I can't help but think, how expensive is that? Like, you're talking about tokens, or you've got you got multiple AI systems in it with multiple agents. I know obviously cost isn't always an issue, but how do you think about the expense of it? How has it turned out in it? What are you seeing there from the financial perspective?
Yeah, so the good news is that the LLM models are becoming cheaper and cheaper. So tokens are becoming cheaper and cheaper, right? So today, even though Orbi does much more than it did a year ago, the per conversation cost is much lower than what it was a year ago. So we do two things. One thing is knowledge base. So knowledge base, we can either do a query every time that the customer has a question. We can say, okay, go find the answer to this question on the knowledge base, right? It can go and search 1,000 articles, it can find the question, whatever. That costs money. So what we do is we take all the knowledge, we put it in a embedded index, and we cache it. So the model has access to it all the time. It doesn't have to query it every single time. So basically, all the knowledge base is cached. There's no cost. So Orbi has all the knowledge pre-injected, predefined, with zero cost. Where we have the biggest cost is where Orbi starts calling tools. So starts calling the sub-agents. So so it says, okay, so this person has a technical question hosted on cPanel, BPS. So calls 1, 2, 3, 4 tools. So those function cold calling, the sub-agents, right? So those cost more money. We keep on finding ways to improve this and cache some of the layers and predefine some of the answers. Today, the cost, I can give you an approximate of how much we spent. About $15,000 a month we spent on Gemini, a few thousand on OpenAI, and a few thousand on Anthropic. Obviously, Gemini is the most expensive because it's the one that does the calling. It's the one that is the leader of the conversation and defines how the flow goes. But it's about, I would say, about $15,000 to $20,000 a month. Everything costs. Plus, we have the cost for the quality control system that downloads the conversation and assess them. Plus minus $20,000 a month is what we spend today, and that is equivalent to about $250,000 of the conversations a month being handled and evaluated.
Did you say, just to make sure I heard this right, did you say 50,000 for Gemini or 5,000?
15, 1-5, sorry.
1.5, 50. Wow. And that makes sense because Gemini is at the first of the conversation and those things are higher. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What, right now, because I know this will change in a month with everything you're doing because you're always experimenting and seeing what happens. You kind of said this, but I wanted to ask it directly. When you think about Gemini, it's the conversation. That's the strength of it. Human level interaction. With OpenAI, I think you said general knowledge. What about Claude?
So Claude is incredible when it has to reason. It's called the reasoning. So it has to think how to troubleshoot issues. So a good example is, say we have a customer with a WordPress website that is showing a blank page. Like if you ask ChatGPT, for example, or OpenAI is going to give you a very broad answer based on public knowledge. So it will say, okay, maybe try to change PHP version, maybe try to change htaccess, maybe try to change default plugins, which could be one of those answers, right? But Claude is incredible to the actual reasoning. So Claude would say, okay, let's check the PHP version. Let's check the WordPress version. If it's a WordPress version 7.0, maybe the customer recently upgraded. So maybe we need to check if it was an upgrade. So let me go and check the .maintenance file. So like it does the actual reasoning troubleshooting process with our help and with our instruction set, but it can also go beyond. So it can reason incredibly well and try to find the solution. And it does it with a very limited context window, which is amazing. So it very rarely exceeds what it's supposed to be doing. So when we started using Claude to troubleshoot stuff, especially when it comes to emails, because emails can be very tricky, we saw that Claude can read the exim mail logs, can understand why an email could be blocked, can understand why customers are having issues both sending and receiving. If we use a system like Spam Experts or Mail Channels or like a third-party mail provider, it can also detect that and understand why they could be having an issue, for example, or whatever. So Claude is incredible to reason and go beyond what the public knowledge does.
I think I missed a step in here is that like when we rolled this out to start, it was live chat. And then only recently has Orbi started to take over tickets or start to work on tickets. Is that correct?
And that's correct. And that was where the biggest breakthrough we did came. And the reason is, so when we do live chat conversation with customers, so live chat is usually simpler questions. So customers comes on live chat when they have a more simple question. They would ask like a billing question, or they would say maybe a simple domain question. If they have a more complicated issue, like a broken website or like a broken server, they would usually talk to us on tickets. So when we started experimenting with Orbi on tickets, we saw that what we've built for live chat is not enough for tickets. So we had to rethink of the whole process. We had to rethink of the whole architecture. And that's when we started building the sub agents. That's when we started building the context window dynamic versus static, because we saw that we were exceeding too fast. So basically, about 2 weeks ago is when we launched Orbi on tickets. It took us about a month to redo the whole, the fourth iteration of Orbi, and which is what we have today. And Orbi today is live on tickets. So basically, if you send us an email with a question, Orbi is going to try to troubleshoot that. Again, with all this sophisticated logic and algorithm in the background, we'll try to do the troubleshooting. If it's unable to, if it doesn't have an answer, it will go to a human. But the preliminary results show that Orbi is able to solve about 35% of every single ticket incoming, with an 85 to 87 CSAT scores, which is pretty amazing, I would say.
So what's next for Orbi?
We keep on improving every day. We are about to implement a machine learning solution. So basically, Orbi to learn from its mistakes and learn from feedback from customers. An example would be a natural conversation happening between Orbi and the customer, and the customer is showing that it's not happy and explains why the customer is not happy. Then Orbi can learn from that. The other biggest thing that's happening in the next few months is Orbi is coming on voice. So we are collaborating with a company called 11 Labs. That company is going to give us a speech to text. So basically, Gemini will now have a voice, and the voice will be able to, so through 11 Labs, we'll be able to create this AI generated voice. So we can handle conversations on a phone call. We're going to start with simple sales conversations, consultative conversations, test the waters, how things go, and how, of course, how customers perceive it, and if they're happy, and adjust until we go to an acceptable level where we can push it live and we can start actually troubleshooting issues on the phone. As you know, as a business, we are very heavily phone in the US and in Australia. So we're experimenting with Australian accent AI models and American accent AI models. So yeah, it's exciting. Orbi is exciting. There is a lot of other stuff we want to try. We want to try and do some upselling with Orbi. So for example, say you're a customer logging into our hosting panel, you have a domain name, but you don't have an SSL, or you don't have a privacy product. So Orbi can identify this, can reach out to you and say, hey, I can see you have a business. Your business is very important. How about you check this for his privacy to prevent you from getting spam calls? How about this SSL to make sure your site is secure? How about this WordPress maintenance package? Like a consultative approach, but only based on what the customer wants. No fake upsells, no BS, as they say.
Yeah. I back to when you said about the voice, I think with zero latency, correct?
Yeah, so we tested a few intelligent ways of buffering. And again, I can give you an example. Say you and I talk, and then I am an AI model, and then I can say, can I please have your email? And then you give me your email. I was like, okay, was that with a C? Was that with an A? And then while I'm doing that, I do have the right answer. And in the background, I did find your account, and I do have access to your account. And now I do have predefined in my memory all your data, and I can directly answer your question. So we can do this back and forth a little bit. Like, for example, okay, thank you for calling, Cory. Let me see if I can pull up your account very quickly. And during these 2-3 seconds is enough for us to come up with preload all the customer's info in the memory so that Orbi can actually troubleshoot.
That's excellent. Okay, anything else with Orbi that I missed that you want to share or talk about before we move on to the business, looking at the business and utilizing AI?
We have a lot of ideas about Orbi, how we can utilize it more, and what it can do for customers. Ultimately, the goal is help customers quickly, efficiently, and being there for them. That summarizes things. I would say for customers watching this, watch this space. There's going to be exciting things coming again and again. We're gonna experiment a bit with the hosting panel. Maybe show some interesting ideas from Orbi. Maybe show some interesting stats from Orbi. So maybe Orbi can show, oh, did you know this month you exceeded your bandwidth usage? Or did you know this month your traffic was higher than last month? Let's see. We're A/B testing.
I love that in the panel. You know, people buy a domain name and get stuck. Like they got the domain, but they don't know where to go next. And our AI App Studio, I know, is really helpful in helping people get off the ground. But I think in the hosting panel, that's excellent. All right, now let's turn our attention, because I know you got ideas and already working on this as our chief operating officer as well. Business enablement and the future of utilizing AI within our business as a whole.
Again, we thought of what is the best way for us to enable AI in the way we run the company, right? Because you can use AI when you code, you can use AI in the development teams, you can use AI in the marketing teams, you can use AI in the customer care teams, but individual AI models and individual teams using their own thing, we think it's good, but it's not the next level, as we call it. So one of the projects I'm working on right now is a way for the global company to collaborate with each other with the help of AI. And one of the ways we can do this is the foundation of this is going to be cloud co-work by having connection to all of our third-party systems. And I can give you my vision for the future. Say I am a data engineer and I work in the data team. I work with Tableau, I work with Snowflake, I work with the sales data, I work with the customer care data, revenues, products, cancellations. Oh, I have all these things. I can input them into the connection with Claude. I can set the data that Claude can see, the frequency, the isolation. I can define what Claude can do. Then I can go to the sales team, and the sales team can open Claude. Any agent can open Claude and say, show me how much money I sold last Monday. And then Claude would go in, go to the system, go to the data team, fetch the data, come back to the agent and say, okay, so last Monday you did XYZ. Then the team leader of that person can see that, can add notes, can add comments, they can do a coaching session, they can schedule a coaching session, they can schedule a meeting, a one-on-one session, they can understand what the reason was, if the revenue was declined, for example, if it was raised, if whatever happened. They can collaborate, everything through AI and everything through cloud co-work. Same thing goes for, say, I'm a marketing person. I want to launch a new campaign. I can go to Cloud Code and say, I want to do a go-to-market campaign in, say, for example, Kenya. How many customers do we have in Kenya? What is the best time for me to, based on the customer care demand in Kenya, how many tickets do we have? What is the time span of tickets we get between 9 to 5? Like possibilities are endless. And then Cloud Code would do all the logic, all the investigation, and it will say, okay, in Kenya, we have X customers. It's busiest 9 a.m. in the morning. The best channel to contact the customers would be WhatsApp messages. Here is an example idea campaign that I've built for you. The marketing person would say, okay, amazing. Send it to my boss for approval. Then Cloud Code would go to chief marketing officer. Hey, your agent has this idea, want to do this. What do you think? Do you approve? Oh, I have these comments. Okay, they will do the comments. Then the comments will get back to the agent. So like it's a real collaboration. And then of course, Seb, CEO, can see that, can say, oh, this marketing team is working on this project. I can see it on my left window. They're collaborating with each other. So yeah, it's a pretty neat, seamless way of all the teams collaborating with each other, real time, without them having to do all the thinking. Claude can do the logic, the data pulling, the manipulation of data, and all that comes with the logic. Like, what does this data mean exactly for them to utilize it?
Yeah, that's great. I know we've got a couple of projects going on internally that I'm really excited about. Understanding our customers better, I think, is always at the forefront for me about that. So I'm really eager to hear all that. Okay, anything else on the business side that you're seeing, that you see in the future, or we're working on right now?
The other big thing that it will eventually come as a natural outcome is through AI and through the data we have and through all the logic we do, we can understand what the customer wants, right? Without them reaching out. So again, as you said before, we can have a customer, we know who the customer is, we know who the company name is, we know what hosting they have, we know what domain names they have, we can see the traffic they have, like we can see so much data based on them. So then we can proactively reach out to them when we can help them. We can help them with a better solution. We can help them with a better domain name. We can help with so many things, and the possibilities are endless. So one of the things we will start doing eventually is we will start reaching out to customers again with a consultative approach. Um, and the consultative approach would be maybe a better package for them, maybe a better solution for them. Uh, Maybe they have a website and they're struggling with sales, they're struggling with marketing. Maybe we can do an SEO consultation with them. Maybe we can do a marketing consultation with them. So being there for the customer basically is what we want to do more, and AI is going to make things easier for us.
That's all exciting stuff, and I can't wait to have you back as you continue to work on all of this as a trailblazer for us and many others. So I'm just curious, you've owned an agency or agencies before, but been in hosting for several decades now. With all the stuff we've talked about, knowing an agency out there helping clients, what are a couple of ideas or ways you see if you were an agency owner today, you might start exploring in all of this?
I talk to a lot of agencies on a daily basis, and I have a lot of friends who run agencies. And the whole AI topic can be either amazing or it can be very scary for them. It can be scary because people don't know what happens to the data. So if you feed customer data to an AI model, what happens, right? Is the data being stolen? Is it used by someone else? Is it people have all these crazy ideas. So I can say that we use privacy enterprise accounts with all our LLM models. So no data is being used, no data is being sold, no data is being handed to any of the big companies. But going back to the question, um, most of the companies struggle because of data and security. They also struggle because they want to start, but they don't know how to start. If you Google how to enable AI to my business, it's a you get overwhelmed with information. You don't know how to start. You don't know what the best approach is. You don't know where AI can help you the most. So naturally, the first thing people do is go to ChatGPT and ask it questions, which is a fair thing to do, but it's not the way to unlock efficiencies and optimizations in a business. So if there's any agency owners out there struggling with AI, or if you're still wondering whether to do it or not do it, I would say the first thing everyone should do is you should spend a day documenting everything you do. If there is one thing you do more than twice, flag it and find a way to automate it. And then again and again and again and again. So there should be nothing which you have to manually do more than twice in your day. And if there is, AI can do it for you in a better way.
Panos Kesisis, our COO of hosting.com. Thank you so much for being on today, sharing all of this so openly with our community at hosting.com. We'll be bringing Panos back quite frequently. As you know, he's our trailblazer, our pioneer here on doing all this stuff, and your insights and just processes about how you think about this is very invaluable. So thank you for your time today, Panos. I know you're very busy, but we appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Cory. Thank you, and have a great day.
All right, join us next. We're still doing this AI series, talking to people. Wanted you to hear from our in-house expert. We'll be bringing them back, but we got more on the radar, talking about how giving you ideas and inspiration for the work you're doing, how you can leverage it for what you're doing. So thank you, and we'll see you next time on Agency Success.